students, let us continue our discussion. One part that can be asked as short note, concept of subagent. Now, who is a subagent? And later we are going to discuss the concept of substituted agent. Now, let's say that, write the example here. So, X is the owner of a bus. He appointed a driver to drive the bus. X is the owner and he appointed a driver to drive the bus. The driver asked the passenger to drive the bus. The passenger drove with negligence, injuring a passerby. Okay, he injured some person on the road. Can we hold X liable for the act of this passenger? No. See, X had the authority to drive the bus. It was his bus. He was the owner. He had the main authority. He can delegate to someone else. So he appointed a driver. You have delegated this authority. So X is the principal, driver is agent. Now the driver asked the passenger. The passenger in this case is a subagent. Subagent means agent of the original agent. Okay, subagent means agent of the original agent. Law says appointment of subagent, appointment of subagent is invalid. Why? See, if you have the main authority, you can delegate it to someone. It is my main original authority. I can delegate it to someone. But if I don't have the original authority, in fact, I have got the authority from someone else, how can I delegate that further? Delegatee cannot further delegate. So if driver doesn't have the original authority is with X. Driver has got that authority from X. Delegatee cannot further delegate. Appointment of subagent is invalid. Principal is not liable for the acts of subagent. Then who is liable? Original agent is liable for acts of subagent. Original agent is liable. So who is the subagent? Can I write over here? Principal is not liable to third party for acts of subagent. In fact, the original agent will be liable to principal as well as third party for acts of subagent. Just copy this and then we'll discuss further. Done writing. Okay. So subagent is a person employed by and acting under the control of the original agent. It refers when the agent appoints another agent. Okay, agent appoints another agent. Appointment of subagent is unlawful. Agent is just a delegatee, and delegatee cannot further delegate. It is based on this Latin phrase that delegatee cannot further delegate. But yeah, there are certain exceptions when appointment of subagent is valid. Like, there was an agreement wherein the principal delegated the authority to agent. Agent said that I can't do this work alone, it's a lot, I need some help. Principal agrees. So the agent appoints a sub-agent. So it is mentioned in their agreement. Okay. So it is allowed. In that case, the sub-agent can be properly appointed. Sometimes the trade customs say that appointment of sub-agent is valid. Like say for example, a broker, he is the agent of a stock exchange. So broker appoints a sub-broker. Even your articles. So the company has appointed the firm as an auditor. Okay. The company has appointed the firm as an auditor. The firm delegates that authority to the partner. Partner delegates it to the manager. Or you can also say that we have appointed the partner. Okay, company has appointed the partner as the auditor. Partner delegates it to the manager. Manager delegates it to the article. Now this is how it normally works. That is a trade custom. Now, can I say that if the article commits any mistake, the partner will be liable because it is a properly appointed sub-agent? So, in case of properly appointed sub-agent, the original principal is liable for the acts of sub-agent. To elaborate and, give everything properly, see, I have prepared a table for you. What if the sub-agent is properly appointed? Okay, in case of properly appointed sub-agent, principal delegated the authority to agent, agent delegated that authority to sub-agent, sub-agent is properly appointed. Then who will be liable for the acts of sub-agent? Agent will be liable for the acts of sub-agent. Principal will be liable for the acts of sub-agent. So are you getting me? See, there is a principal agency relation between them. There is a principal agency relation between agent and sub-agent. Agent is the principal of sub-agent. So there is a principal agency relation here and there is a principal agency relation here also. So agent will be responsible for the acts of sub-agent to the principal. Okay, so agent is responsible to the principal for the acts of sub-agent, and then principal is liable to the third party. That is how it normally works. That is how it normally works, yes. So agent is liable for the acts of sub-agent to the principal. Okay, so agent is liable to the principal for the acts of sub-agent. Principal is then liable to the third party for the acts of sub-agent. Okay. What if the agent is not properly appointed? Principal delegated the authority to agent. Agent delegated that authority to sub-agent without authority. Sub-agent is not properly appointed. The agent will be liable not only to the principal but also third party for all acts of sub-agent. So here agent was liable to the principal for the acts. I'll draw it properly. Agent is liable to the principal. Principal is liable to the third party. Let me draw the arrow like this so it will be all the more clear. Agent is liable to the principal. Okay. And principal is liable to the third party. So agent will be liable to the principal. Principal is liable to the third party. But in case of the sub-agent who is not properly appointed, agent is liable not only to the principal but also to the third party for the acts of sub-agent. Write this. Pause the video, write this. Done. Okay. The appointment of sub-agent would be valid if the terms of appointment originally contemplated, means there is an agreement. The principal has allowed the agent to appoint a sub-agent because maybe the agent has a lot of work. Sometimes trade customs. So this is A and this is B. In both these cases, the sub-agent is properly appointed. Sub-agent will be considered as agent of the principal. The principal is liable for the acts of sub-agent. Principal is liable to the third party for acts of sub-agent. But okay, there is some unforeseen emergency. That is the C part, unforeseen emergency. Sometimes it is like, broker met with an accident. So he appointed a sub-broker to complete the task. In case of proper appointment, where the sub-agent is properly appointed, the principal is bound by the act of agent. He is responsible for the acts of sub-agent as if the sub-agent was properly appointed by him. The sub-agent is responsible to the original agent, not the principal directly. That is what we discussed here. The sub-agent will be responsible to his agent. Agent will be responsible to the principal. Principal will be responsible to the third party. So sub-agent is responsible only to his agent. Agent is responsible to the principal. Principal to the third party for all the acts of properly appointed sub-agent. Sub-agent is liable to agent. So sub-agent is liable to the agent. Agent is liable to the principal. Principal is liable to the... But if the sub-agent is not properly appointed, principal is not bound by the acts of sub-agent, and sub-agent is not bound to the principal. In fact, the original agent is liable not only to the principal but also the third party. Then we have the concept of substituted agent. Now let's take an example. Okay, let's take an example. Imagine that you have cleared your CA and you are sitting in your AC office, and I come to you and I tell you that, listen, I have a sea facing penthouse. Wow. So I tell you that I have a sea facing penthouse. I'm thinking of selling it. Anyways, I'm not, staying there. So you are my CA. Will you sell it for me? So you look at me and tell, ma'am, why are you selling it? Auction it. You will get a very good price. I said, wow. Then get it done. You look at me and say, ma'am, I am a CA. I can't auction it. I'll have to go to an auctioneer, a professional. I said, get it done. So I asked you to sell the house, but you identified someone else. Okay, you identified an auctioneer. This person is our substituted agent. Okay, he is our substituted agent. So, ma'am, what is the difference between sub-agent and substituted agent then? Think. Sub-agent in case of sub-agent, the original agent was capable of performing the task. But even then, he delegated that to sub-agent. Even then. Delegated the task to a sub-agent. But in case of substituted agent, write this, otherwise you will forget later. the original agent was not capable of performing the task. Hence, he identified another person, and that other person is substituted. Write this. See, we don't mind. You identify someone else, it's okay, but please be very careful while identifying another person. See, that other person should be capable of performing the task. He should be of sound financial position. Like, if you're asking the auctioneer to sell the goods, what if he runs away with the money? So, he should be a person of reputation. So, agent, you be very careful while appointing a sub agent, otherwise, we will hold you liable for the acts of substituted agent. Section 194, where the principal appoints an agent, if that agent, keyword is identifies, if that agent identifies another person to carry out the acts ordered by the principal, then that second person is a substituted agent. Substituted agent is properly appointed, therefore he is considered as agent of the original principal. So who will be liable for acts of the substituted agent? Principal, unless we prove that the agent was negligent in identifying the substituted agent, then the agent will be liable. So that is, or you can say it means that principal will be liable to third party for acts of substituted agent. Now, same example. A authorizes B to recover money from X. Now, X is not paying money. So, B asks C to file a case and recover money from X. So, he's not a lawyer. So, he identifies a lawyer to do that. Over here, C is a substituted agent. C is a substituted agent. While selecting a substituted agent, the agent is bound to exercise the same amount of diligence as a man of ordinary prudence would. So be very careful while identifying a substituted agent. If you are careful, you will not be responsible for acts or negligence of the substituted agent. So be very careful. Now, A instructs B to buy a ship. So B employs a ship surveyor of good reputation. But the surveyor makes the choice negligently. Can we blame the agent for that? He was careful. He appointed someone of good reputation. So we can't blame B in this case. So in this case, A will be responsible for the acts of that ship surveyor. A consigns goods to B. B appoints an auctioneer. But the auctioneer became insolvent without handing over the proceeds. B did not check C's reputation, solvency. B behaved negligently. So B will be liable for the acts of C. So this is the difference between sub-agent and substituted agent. Students, we have almost come to an end of our syllabus. I hope you are revising everything. I don't want to scare you. Okay, I don't want to scare you. But I just want to keep reminding you that if you feel that, law can be managed even later, or we'll somehow manage it, it is challenging. I won't say it is tough, it is challenging. But if you are consistent, okay, if you study this subject every day, if you are consistent, then I'm sure you will be able to score very good marks. You already have everything. You have the lectures, the notes, textbook, compiler discussion. So everything is covered. I don't think anything is left. So make the best of it. And I always tell my students that don't study for yourself. Don't study for your friends, teachers, or anyone else. Just study for your parents. Just study for them. Because they actually want just two letters in front of your name, CA. You may be going through these lectures for any course like CA, CMA, CS, BCom exam. They just want you to be happy and successful. They don't even want that for themselves. They want it for you. They want so that you are successful. You are happy in life. See how selflessly they are working for you, and this is the least that we can do for them. Study for your parents. Duties and obligations I will cover in my next lecture because that is very lengthy, so I don't want to mix it with other concepts. Next, let us discuss the rights of an agent. I'm trying that our lecture should not exceed 40 minutes because I know sometimes it becomes very tiring. So I've kept you in mind while recording these lectures. Okay. Let us discuss rights of an agent. Think from the agent's point of view. They are his rights. This can be asked as a case-based question. So please mark this as important for case-based question. We have the right to retain, right of retention, right to retain out of the sums received for on account of principal. Now, it's very simple. The agent sells goods for the principal. We are busy selling goods, so we receive money. From that money, I can keep my commission, the expenses which I have incurred for the agency business, some advances which I paid. So, whatever expenses were incurred, I can keep that, and the remaining can be given to the principal. So, you can, out of the sums received, retain for the following payments: money due to him in respect of advances made. So he made certain advances, so he used his money to give an advance to the supplier, so he can keep all that from the money received on account of the firm's business. In respect of the expenses incurred by him, so for expenses also he can keep that money. So let's say that he paid rent, then he paid expenses for purchase of goods, he incurred some expenses for the business, so he can retain all that. He can retain the remuneration payable to him. So this right can be exercised on any sums received on account of the principal in the business of agency. So what all can he retain? Let's write the keywords. Advances, expenses, advances made, expenses incurred, remuneration. So when you write this, it is easy for you to revise. Right to remuneration. See, we are not doing this for free, huh? We want money for it. Agent expects remuneration. It will be either agreed as per the agreement, or there may be a trade custom. If nothing is agreed, see the trade custom. So yes, you are entitled to remuneration. If there is no agreement, usual remuneration, which is customary. So as per the trade custom, you will get some usual remuneration as per the trade custom. X was an agent and he was employed to introduce a customer. Sale was settled, earnest money was given. Earnest money is security deposit. But the sale could not be completed because of the customer's inability to pay. State whether the agent is entitled to remuneration if he was appointed to sell the property on the terms that he will be paid commission on the completion of the sale. So you will get commission when the sale is complete. Your sale was not complete. Is he entitled to remuneration? No. But what if he was to give remuneration only to introduce a customer? That he did. So is he entitled to remuneration? In this case, yes. Agent is not entitled to remuneration for acts done through his misconduct or negligence. Example: A employs B to recover 1 lakh from C. Okay, A employed B to recover 1 lakh from C. Now B went to C and started abusing him. He gave a lot of galis. C said, I will not pay, do whatever you want. Now B came to A and he says, I tried. This is my style. Give me 1,000 rupees remuneration. Can he ask? We could not recover that 1 lakh due to your negligence and you want commission. Nothing doing. He is entitled to no remuneration. In fact, he must make good the loss to A. Compensate him. A directs B to buy 100 kg of rice on 1st July at 100 rupees per kg. B only buys 60 kg on 1st July at 100 rupees and the remaining 40 kg he buys at 110. We had authorized you to buy 100 kgs at 100 rupees. You bought only 60 kg that day. So for the remaining 40 kg, yes, can he get remuneration? Acha, on what amount? So he can claim remuneration on this 60 kg. Cannot claim remuneration on this 40 kg. In fact, he ended up paying 10 rupees more for this 40 kg. So he will have to compensate 400 rupees to the principal. You'll have to compensate to the principal. Guys, just 1 minute. So in fact, here he will have to pay 400 rupees as compensation. Forget about remuneration. You'll have to compensate A for that loss. Agents lien on principal's property. Lien means to retain. So you can retain only when you are in possession of that property. So lien means to retain. The principal had given his books of accounts to agent. Agent will retain them if he has done some work on them and he has not received remuneration or gave some goods. We will retain it till we are not paid for. But this is particular lien. Agent can exercise lien only on those goods or books on which he has done some work. He is entitled to retain if he is not given his remuneration. But this is a particular lien, means he can retain only that property in respect of which the claim is due. Like, I worked on the books of accounts. You didn't pay me. I will retain the books till you pay. It's a particular lien. Remember, we had discussed this in bailment. Right of indemnification for lawful act. To indemnify means to compensate. Now, A appoints B to sell the goods. So A is the principal and B is the. So A appointed B to sell the goods. So B entered into contract with C. Now, do you want to buy? I will sell. But A failed to send the goods. Arey. If the principal fails to send the goods to the agent will not be able to fulfill his promise to the third party. Obviously, third party will file case for breach of contract. C files a case for non-performance. Poor B had to pay damages. He can recover those damages from A. A is bound to protect B against the litigation and all other costs, expenses arising out of it. Right of indemnification against acts done in good faith. Now, P instructs A, the agent, to sell goods. Agent sold the goods to X. Suddenly, oh, the true owner comes and say, "Arey, these are my goods. How come you sold them?" He sued and recovered damages from A. Is it A's fault? He acted in good faith, thinking that P is the owner. Now, P is not the owner. Now, how will I come to know about it? So, in this case, the principal P is liable to compensate A. Agent is entitled to indemnification of any loss or damage from the principal if he has acted in good faith. He didn't know that P is not the owner. But we are not liable for any criminal act of agent. A employs B to go and destroy the shop of C and also to beat him. B did that work. He went, he destroyed the shop of C and also beat C. He had to go to the jail for one night. He had to pay some bail, etc. Can he now come and claim that money from A? You told me that you will take care of me. Give me money. I had to pay the bail. I had to pay the police. A says, why should I pay? Who are you? I didn't ask you. Can B recover that money from A? It's a criminal act. How will you take action? A instructs B to publish a defamatory statement. What is the meaning of defamatory? Statement affecting the goodwill, reputation of the party against whom it is published. So it's a statement affecting the goodwill or reputation of the party against whom it is published. So A has asked B to publish a defamatory statement against C. B did that. Case was filed against him. Can he recover that cost or damage? Even if A had promised, I will indemnify you for whatever loss is incurred, even if A promises, he refuses, we can't do anything. It's an unlawful act. Publishing defamatory statement is illegal. It's unlawful. So where a person employs another to do an act which is criminal, employer is not bound to indemnify the agent against those acts. Agent can't do anything. Right to claim compensation for injury caused by principal's neglect. Agent suffered injury and that was because of principal's negligence. A employs B for laying bricks, but he puts up the scaffolding himself. Have you seen outside a building, they put bamboos like this or metal rods where workers climb? That is scaffolding. So A employs B for laying bricks, but he puts the scaffolding himself. But B falls and injures because the scaffolding was unskillfully put up. It was not properly done. B falls and injures. Now the agent suffered this injury because of the principal's negligence. We can recover the compensation from him. Principal will make compensation to the agent in respect of injury caused to the agent due to principal's neglect or want of skill. We wanted skill, it was absent. Every principal owes to his agent the duty to take care and not to expose him to unreasonable risk. So, whenever you are giving a task to the agent, you have to be very careful that the agent is comfortable, everything is properly provided to him. You have to exercise due skill and diligence. If you are negligent, agent has a right to claim compensation. I think we'll stop for the day. Yes. Let's continue in the next lecture. But remember what I told today. Whenever you feel that you are getting distracted, think about your parents. You are studying for them and no one else. Okay? Practice that and you won't feel distracted. I'll see you next time.